I've been...
I've been having these weird thoughts lately.
Like, is any of this for real? Or not?
Hey there everyone, this is KZ, and man, what a good trailer for Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind we've gotten. Out of all the trailers they've done for this game in particular, they have been especially strong at times, and this is easily one of the best ones, and that's why we have this video here. This is going to be me breaking down not only this trailer, but the previous two, and really figuring out what Remind really is in the weeks leading up to its launch. So, let's get into it. Now, the first of these trailers we're going to look at is, of course, the first Remind trailer back from June. And this is definitely the weakest one of the three, and that's because, like with Kingdom Hearts 3 itself, it is an early trailer. They haven't gotten a lot done yet, not a lot is polished, so they show you some cutscenes from various different perspectives with text because no voice acting of any type has been done. They have some cool twists there, like, oh, something interesting with Luke's sword. And then, of course, the gameplay with the other characters in the Keyblade Graveyard. It kind of tempers your expectations of what this DLC is going to be, because DLC, typically, in my opinion, is something smaller. Something that you'll pay like $10 or $15 for, will give you some good stuff if you're a really hardcore fan, but isn't really going to move the needle at all. At the time, I was super pumped, because you get to play as Roxas, but there wasn't a lot here that was gonna blow the house down, really. Nomura ended up showing this at a concert right before E3, revealing that the DLC would be split into 3 parts that would come out in this Remind thing. There's gonna be Remind, an extra story scenario. They were gonna expand upon the Keyblade Graveyard, something called Limit Cut, and on top of that, there would be a secret episode where the hardest boss would be shown, the one that was going to make players cry, which had me excited because the combat in this game's really fun, and that's what I'm looking for, a new challenge. Because as it stands right now, we have Dark Inferno, and he's not doing it for me, if I'm being honest. Now, the second trailer for Remind was very, very good compared to the first one. It showed a lot of what we were looking to see and gave us a better idea of some of the things that are going to happen in it. Of course, they had various little story sequences that are hammering home that maybe you're going to be rewriting reality like you do in the final world section of Kingdom Hearts 3, only this time it's for the entire Keyblade Graveyard sequence. Sora's absent through most of it, and instead, you have the other warriors taking on the various boss fights with brand new team attacks and new cutscenes. On top of that, we got a taste of what Limit Cut is most likely going to be, which is a series of one-on-one fights against the entire organization, and it looks pretty cool so far. We also got to see the Oblivion Keyblade, since they showed off Oathkeeper in the previous one, and its dark form. And to cap it all off, they're going max fan service by teasing a possible playable fight of Lingering Will versus Terra Xehanort. All in all, this trailer was really good and a lot more exciting compared to the first one. Of course, neither of those trailers can compare to what we've been given with the brand new trailer that came out last week by accident. This Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind trailer is fantastic. It is dense and has everything you want to see almost immediately. From the Final Fantasy characters to the different playable scenarios to the teases of what the secret episode is going to be. This trailer is packed. So, for organizational purposes, theory crafting, and just the way I want to do this video, I'm going to be splitting up my analysis of this trailer into 3 groups: Limit Cut, Remind, and Secret Episode. So I'm going to be doing it just like that, using footage that I assume is from those specific parts. So let's get started. First up, we got the Limit Cut content. Now, of course, we have seen Xigbar and Vanitas fightable in the previous trailer, but now we got to see Terra Xehanort, Xemnas, Dark Riku, on top of Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, and Larxene. And then another bonus clip of Xemnas just because he's one of the coolest ones. These fights look incredible with all new, brand new moves, insane desperation attacks, changes to the look of the arena. Everything about it looks fantastic. While I'm sure everyone's on the same page, the Limit Cut content seems to just be what you expected from Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. the Garden of Assemblage, an area in which you were able to fight data versions of the entire organization in a super boss format. They were a lot of fun, but they were also preceded by their own high-end, tough area where you had to fight a bunch of heartless and nobodies to get to, which was the Cavern of Remembrance. It's one of the most memorable parts of the entire game, meant to be after you finish the game because it was very challenging. And I feel like we're going to get our equivalent of that with this limit cut content, and they showed it with Scala ad Caelum. No longer is Scala ad Caelum only going to be an arena for you to fight the final bosses of the game. Now you can explore it. In the little bit they showed from the new trailer, Sora was able to cast thunder on a device to start grinding a rail, and seeing that yes, you will be able to safely run around Scala ad Caelum and do whatever you want. We didn't see any enemies yet, but I'm guessing that this is going to be the area that will lead into the various limit cut fights for this game. My reason being is everything related to the Remind story scenario seems to not involve Scala ad Caelum at all, and this would be the perfect location to set up those fights. On top of the architecture on the ground during those limit cut fights looks somewhat similar to the stuff in Scala, only with a more blue motif to it. Moving on into the Remind section, which is basically the completely new version of the final battle, we get to see Sora dealing with a lot of people's issues, whether it's Aqua's PTSD from the Realm of Darkness, making itself manifest into an army of Aquas, and I guess this is the reason why she freezes up in Kingdom Hearts 3 when they're taken by darkness, is because she's still traumatized from her years-long experience. Sora also encounters a strange dark inferno-like presence when visiting Ventus's heart, at least that's the way it's cut. And of course, intercepting the Terra Xehanort Lingering Will fight seems to not go as well as Sora may have expected. Now, if this is going to be a new version of the final battle, they need to show the final battles, and they do. They show off battles against the Xehanort replicas from Scala ad Caelum, but this time, they're in the Keyblade Graveyard, above the clouds, with a new, even more evil-looking purple Kingdom Hearts that's been summoned. This is really interesting to me, and also features all of the Warriors of Light except for Sora and Kairi, battling against them in some sort of quick-time event, where you mash attack and barrier, stuff that you've experienced through stuff like the merry-go-round attraction, or the battle against the giant vulture from Pirates. This is the kind of stuff I love to see. Cool action shots where it's people outside their general groups fighting together. That's like Ventus and Roxas, or Aqua and Xion. The fact that everyone's together fighting them is something I really wanted, and I'm glad that we're basically getting an alternate version of the final battle so that they can show completely different perspectives. Of course, throughout the Remind story, Sora eventually gets what he wants and is able to save Kairi, and we are handsomely rewarded with what the final boss of Remind may potentially be: Kairi versus Xehanort. Like anyone else, I was really disappointed that Kairi was not playable in Kingdom Hearts 3 and was completely owned because someone grabbed her wrist. But now that we've seen that she is fighting armored Xehanort holding 13 evil Keyblades, and she's fighting with Sora, and they are on an entire floating glyph in the sky overlooking Kingdom Hearts, this looks like a dark version of the final boss, an inverted version of the final boss, and I am so excited for her. Fans of her character. It feels great that after all of these years, she's getting to do something, and this is probably the coolest way to do it. And this is everything I expect to be in the Remind story part of the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC. All of this is redoing the Keyblade Graveyard battles, and likely it will end with a different perspective of Sora returning with Kairi and ultimately fading away, revealing that yes, the thing you did at the end of the main game happened, and then Sora came back and did all of this. And all of that will transition us to the secret episode. Secret episodes and secret endings are usually a tease for what happens next in Kingdom Hearts, and also an epilogue like with Birth by Sleep, so we get no different here. Riku is searching for Sora and asking some of his friends from Radiant Garden, the Final Fantasy characters, They reference Chain of Memories with them going, he has to still exist, we still remember him. And this is just great. Seeing the fact that Riku's going on a journey to find where his friend is really engaging for this part of the secret episode. On top of that, we have what I think is also from the secret episode, which is Riku talking with Aqua. And it sounds like they may be going to the realm of darkness to search for him because Riku shows concern for her, but she says it'll be fine because she won't be alone this time. Though that's just my theory. If we can roll it back to the Final Fantasy characters, I think everyone was pumped the very second they showed them there. It's unfortunate that they weren't in the main story, but when you look at the story, you didn't necessarily need them. But I'm not going to say that Final Fantasy characters shouldn't be in, because in the end, they're fan service in the same way Disney Worlds are fan service, and I won't be incredibly upset if they're not in, but I will be pumped if they are. And I really do hope that we get to see Cloud and Sephiroth again and get to do that super boss fight one last time. One thing that I think is an unknown is where they're going to place the scenes with young Xehanort and the Master of Masters alongside Xigbar and Luxord. They both take place in different locations and seem to be more toward teasing things for the future, so I'm putting them around this part of the video, but really I have no idea. They could easily put these into Remind as a cold open or an interesting ending of some sort, but I think Secret Episode could work as well. The end of this trailer showed Sora in what seems to be a nighttime version of the final world. Here he encounters Yozora, whose name literally means night sky, as both of them synchronize and say the quote Sora had said at the very start of Kingdom Hearts 1. It's an incredible moment, and I believe this will be what you'll experience as the secret boss of the game. The hardest challenge in Kingdom Hearts 3, because all secret bosses, except for, I guess, Dream Drop Distance, were always a tease for the next chapter in the story, whether it was Lingering Will, Xemnas, the mysterious figure. I think Yozora could fit that bill, and despite the narration at the time of this trailer saying that Sora would lose his powers, I feel like you could put that narration anywhere, and it doesn't necessarily mean that he's in that state during that moment. So before we get ready to wrap things up, I wanted to discuss what I think is particularly cool about the Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind stuff. Off the top, the Keyblades, both Oathkeeper and Oblivion coming back, is really, really cool. I think the transformations for them look nice, them being dark and light form respectively. It's good to actually have a form that is more focused on the Keyblade combos alongside stuff like second form, so I'm excited that we're getting that. I imagine they'll both be fairly similar except for their big finishing move, and maybe they'll have a second stage evolution. Some HUD stuff implies we might, but that trailer was months ago, so there's a good chance they just weren't done yet, which is totally fair. I like the fact that Riku is talking to the Final Fantasy characters in the news trailer because this is the first time he's actually talked to them. This is the first time he's really encountered them beyond looking at them through a window in Kingdom Hearts 1. It really puts in perspective some of the combinations of characters that we haven't really gotten in the series, and I'm hoping that we get a lot more interactions between a lot of different characters in Remind. And the last thing of note for this little section is I'm very curious of how they're going to deal with Master Xehanort in this DLC. Unfortunately, his voice actor, Rutger Hauer, passed away a few months ago, and I imagine that the voice work for this only started happening about 2.5 months ago, if we go by what has been said by Richard Epcar, voice of Terra Xehanort and Ansem Seeker of Darkness. So I wonder if he's going to have a less voiced role, though I imagine he's not, and that they're going to have to find a way to recast, which is unfortunate, as we're basically hitting the finish line on anything else he would have had to say in this game, but we'll have to see. So in conclusion, here's what I think the DLC of Kingdom Hearts 3 does in fact entail. Of course, Limit Cut, an explorable Scala at Kylum with 13 boss fights against Organization 13, and they're all going to be pretty cool, very fun. This is the big endgame chase everyone's been wanting. Then, of course, there's the secret episode, which is going to take place after the events of the game. It's going to have some interesting story stuff, and maybe something is playable in it. I have a little bit of hope given that there are extra cutscenes, the Final Fantasy stuff, maybe a Sephiroth boss fight, but I'm really thinking that Yozora is going to be the main ultimate challenge of the game to tease the next saga of Kingdom Hearts. And then, of course, Remind, the bulk of the DLC, I guess, because from a story standpoint, you're doing all of the events over again. Only this time you're playing as different characters, seeing their different struggles, and is going to be really exciting. Overall, I've seen a lot of people say that the Final Fantasy characters or the Remind scenario should have been in the main game, and I have to say I disagree. Because overall, the Final Fantasy characters were not critical to the plot in any real way, so I can't really argue whether or not they needed to be there. And the same goes for this Remind scenario, because overall, it's a new version of the events we already did, and I think having both of them present within the game would have killed the game's pacing. I can see Nomura specifically focusing on having a ending where Sora is the one that does everything, because that's the person you're playing as, and would make a little bit of sense to do that. But also, it's very clear at this point, given how he's discussed the power of waking, how it's used in Kingdom Hearts 3 to have you do the Keyblade Graveyard sequence twice in there, that he very much intended for the game to end the way it did, and for the next story within Kingdom Hearts 3, this DLC, to pick up and show you a different result and give more context to the final seconds of that ending before the credits. And overall, I think it's a brilliant way to handle it. I am incredibly excited, and it's only about 6 weeks until we get to experience Remind and what is likely going to be the final version of Kingdom Hearts 3 as a whole. I hope you enjoyed this analysis video. I put a decent amount of work into this thanks to the fact that they leaked the trailer early, and I didn't have to rush to just shit out a video where I just go, look at this, here's what I think, an hour after it came out. If you like this, like the video, and talk amongst yourselves in the comments down below. I'm sure 90% of what I just said was wrong, but hey, it was fun. See you next time.
I've been
having these weird thoughts lately.
like, is any of this for real or not?